on Facebook today. Anderson and Boback meet the team. I'm Jan Boback, managing partner here at Anderson and Boback. Who do we have with us?
Well, I'm Kim Anderson. How are you?
Hey, Kim. Jessica's muted. Can't hear her.
Still?
There you are.
There she is.
Hi, Jessica Marshall. How are you?
I'm Alexandra Alex Brinkmeyer. I am one of the associates here.
I'm Jessica Sindel. I'm sorry, Genevieve. I'm Jessica Sindel. I'm also an associate at Anderson and Boback.
I'm Genevieve Binney, another associate at Anderson and Boback.
Well, welcome team members. It's good to see everybody in the same spot. It's been a while since we've all been able to get together, certainly in person. How's things going?
It's a new world out there. it's truly crazy. COVID has ended up in a huge line of issues that we haven't really even seen before, and we're just going with it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I feel like we've been presented with a lot of new challenges, but also some new opportunities. And there are certain things that have been streamlined with the courts, which has been really great and made, I feel like, my practice more efficient and more effective. So there have been pluses and minuses for sure, but we're all getting acclimated.
I definitely agree.
Go ahead, Genevieve. Let's hear what you have to say about.
No, I was just going to add that I do like the how the court is working now. We don't have to actually go to court most of the times, and we realize a lot of things can actually be taken care of without having to travel to court. We can stay in our office and do it, or even at home and efficiently take care of our cases that way.
It's really like catapulted us into the 21st century, it feels like.
Agreed.
What would we do without Zoom?
Or email.
Yeah, or email.
But,
Well, I think everybody knows a little bit about us, so we should probably have you guys talk a little bit about yourselves so that everyone gets to know you. How about you, Alex?
Sure. So I have been at Anderson and Boback for about a year now. I've practiced family law basically my whole attorney career. Before that, I worked with judges and clerked for family law firms, but I've been doing family law and the practice of it since I've been an attorney, honestly. And just kind of family law is such a broad scope, and people often don't exactly know what that entails. And I basically say, well, think of any problem a family can have. It's pretty much that. We obviously deal with the obvious one of getting people divorced. We deal with people after they're divorced and, whatever sorts of problems come up in that situation. We deal with people who are never married. We deal with orders of protection and issues of abuse. And we also deal with guardianships, which is kind of like a cousin to a lot of the family law stuff we deal with in terms of the marriage and children of people who are or have been involved with one another at one point, whereas the guardianship often will come into play if maybe there's like a family member who's sick and no one can take care of their children, or somebody's not able to physically be in the same state or even country as their children, and somebody else needs to step in as either a caretaker or just somebody who can make decisions, sign off on school papers, things like that. And so that's really one of the areas that we've been getting more involved in, and it's really interesting to me. Just because, again, it's a little bit different than the traditional, here's a marriage, people are fighting, or it's our child and we don't exactly know what to do. So I'd be happy to go into that in more detail, or I can let somebody else talk.
So you're like our resident guardianship person now.
I wouldn't go that far, but I definitely have had some interesting cases, and Jess Sindel has actually been nice enough on many occasions to let me pick her brain. She has a lot of opportunities in this as well, but I do have one very interesting case that I can't go into like too much detail about right now, but it's really been just a crash course in every little nuance that you never would have thought needed to come into play in terms of guardianship. And I know, unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on the circumstance, I feel like I know way more about guardianship than I ever intended to. So yeah, basically, I mean, for people who are looking to get a guardianship, you know, often this is a family member who maybe, I mean, unfortunately, maybe somebody's dealing with an addiction issue. Maybe somebody's just, you know, maybe somebody's been injured or is sick or has COVID, and can't care for their children for the time being. Often a family member or a close friend or somebody who knows the child will want to step in and say, well, I legally need to be able to take care of these decisions in the meantime. And because the parent or my relative who has this child is unable to do so. And, you know, you have to give proper notice, but there is definitely a mechanism in court for that to be able to happen. You know, sometimes a parent, unfortunately, is just unwilling or unable to care for their child, and this child still needs to be cared for. I mean, just because the parent isn't able to do it, the child still has needs. And, you know, hopefully it's somebody who loves and cares about that child who can step in so that that child isn't being, like, you know, carted off to foster care or neglected or, you know, something like that. So we definitely can help people get guardianship. Yes, Jan?
I just wanted to say that I work very closely with Alex, and I've been very impressed with all the work that you've done on the guardianship issues. And I love that you call it an opportunity, because when we get things, and we all have, no matter how long you practice law, I mean, Kim and I have been at this almost 25 years, and something always comes up. It's like, boy, that's new. So calling it an opportunity is great. I love that.
Oh, well, thank you. But I mean, it truly is. And especially now you see people who are, you know, they're nervous. They're nervous about getting laid out on COVID. Nobody knows exactly what's happening, and nobody knows what effect it will have on them if they catch it, how you can catch it. It's just so much is up in the air that people are really nervous. They're like, what happens to my kids if my spouse and I, or if I'm a single parent, just me, what happens if we are out of commission, so to speak? And, you know, you can either appoint somebody if you're the parent and you want somebody to act in the event you're unable to. You can appoint somebody if something happens suddenly and you're a grandparent, for example, or you know, an aunt or uncle or something like that. You can step in, and there are ways that that child can be cared for in the parent's absence or during their inability. It can be temporary, it can be long-term, whatever the situation calls for. On the flip side, there are also sometimes those relatives who are a little too overzealous in trying to sort of, for lack of a better term, get their hooks in and sort of take control over a child that maybe it's not necessarily proper. Maybe you're the parent and somebody wants to tell you how they think your child should be raised or how something should be happening, and you're perfectly fine and you're able to make these decisions on your own, and you say, well, I'm the parent, don't I have the final say? And generally the answer is yes. I mean, parents have a constitutional right to parent their child. So absent, like I said, something that really makes them unable to parent their child, or in the event the parent is unwilling to parent their child, in which case this probably wouldn't be the situation that parent fell into, because if you truly don't care, it's one of the saddest situations, but it unfortunately happens from time to time.
Well, in case you didn't notice, Alex does a lot of the talking at our firm.
I do.
Alex, you are a true asset to our team, and we really appreciate you. Thank you for all you bring to Anderson and Boback. But let's hear from Jess Sindel.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
So I've been practicing exclusively in juvenile and family law since 2013, when I passed the bar in Missouri, and I'm currently licensed in both Missouri and Illinois. Prior to entering family law and really working with divorce and parentage cases exclusively, I practiced as a guardian ad litem in St. Louis for 2 years with children in foster care, representing their best interests. And I think that that's had a big impact in how I now practice and represent parents in my divorce and in parentage cases as well. It really gave me a good sense and an understanding of what the best interests of children are, and how to help the parents that I work with understand that as well, and understand how decisions might be made, understand how the role of a child's rep or a guardian ad litem who comes into the case what role they're going to play, how they're going to participate, how they're going to make decisions and make recommendations to the judges. I feel like that's also really helped me to know when to really advocate for parents who are being alienated, who are not getting the time and the contact that they should get, that they deserve. As Alex said, parents have a constitutional right to parent their children, and a lot of times they're being excluded and they're not allowed to participate in their children's lives. And I've been able to get parents who were not allowed to contact their kids time with their kids, contact with their kids, and that's been a really important thing for them in terms of reestablishing that bond and having that relationship. And at the same time, there are also situations where you realize, even though the courts come at parenting from a 50-50 perspective, that hopefully the parents will be able to work together, hopefully they'll be able to divide time. Sometimes that's just not a possibility. Sometimes things are too acrimonious and too conflicted and difficult for them to really be able to make those decisions and share custody together. And so then you really try to advocate for your client to get the child what's best for them, and to get your client what they're hoping to get in terms of parenting time and responsibility as well. And so I feel like that has been a major focus of my practice. I have been with Anderson and Boback since 2019. I've been exclusively practicing in family law and private practice since 2017 in the Chicago area.
And you know, Jess, I know you do a lot of work, and you have had great success in order protection court. I know you've spent a lot of time there, and you've had some difficult situations, and you've impressed us all with the work that you've done in the area of domestic violence. How is that more prevalent nowadays with COVID, in your opinion?
I know that the domestic violence has been a real issue in terms of COVID and families being quarantined together, and it's really reduced the amount of services that are available to people and the options that people have in terms of getting out of those situations. I mean, the good news is that the domestic violence courts are still open. They actually remained open in person in a way that non-emergency matters didn't, out of recognition that these are real emergency situations that can't just, wait a couple of days to get resolved. But I do think that the stress of COVID, the fact that people are in shared spaces, in small spaces together, has really exacerbated that situation for a lot of people. And the good news is there is relief out there. There is help out there if that's what people need, if they feel like they need protection from their spouse or their partner during this time.
Well, you're a very valuable member to our team, and you've added so much value to us. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do, Jess. And let's hear from Genevieve.
I'm in the dark here. Sorry, I just noticed.
Let's hear from her because we
can't see her. Something weird with the office lights and the light in here, but so I'm Genevieve. I've been at Anderson and Boback since 2019. Before practicing here, I was working at a small family law firm in the south suburbs. I was there for several years, and I concentrated exclusively in family law, as I do now. I guess since Alex and Jess already talked about the parenting issues, I get to talk about the fun part, which is the money. No one ever fights about money, right? So this is the easy part of the case.
Right.
No, there is a lot to deal with when you talk about money and the financial aspects of a divorce case, or even a parentage case, and the plethora of cases that we deal with. You have to look at, well, financial wise, there is support you have to look at. You have to look at the assets of the parties, the debts of the parties. And when I talk about support, I'm talking about maintenance, which is was known as alimony before, or spousal support, and child support. And the law changed recently, I guess not that recently, but maintenance now is actually non-taxable to the person, to both parties. And child support law in Illinois changed back in 2017, and now child support is based on both parties' incomes, not just the person paying support, like it was so many years ago. So maintenance and child support are determined by looking at both parties' incomes. And that sounds straightforward, I suppose, but when you don't have a regular W-2 wage earner, or you have someone who has businesses, or different ways of earning their income, then it can be hard to determine what a party's income is to be able to determine support. So that's one of the complex, I guess, financial issues you have to deal with regarding support. In dividing property, you have to look at what real estate there is to deal with between the properties or parties if you're talking about a marriage. So you have to figure out what the real estate is that needs to be divided between the parties, the value of that real estate, how it will be divided. And of course, if there's multiple properties involved, that means appraisals, figure out the mortgage balances, the equity that's involved, and figure out how that's going to be divided, whether one party will get a property or you're just going to sell it and divide the proceeds from that. Some other financial issues to look at or aspects are whether someone owns a business. It can be a solo business or a business that involves other people. Usually if there's a business involved, you want to get a business valuation, especially if that business has been, ongoing throughout the marriage and it was started during the marriage and it's marital property. Then, you have to figure out what that person's interest is in that business and how you're going to divide that or figure that out. And then also retirement accounts and bank accounts. Those would also have to be divided between the parties. And you'd have to determine how those would be divided and also look at tax consequences, which are related to everything you do financially in family law. When you divide things, you definitely have to look to the future and see what the tax consequences are going to be for both parties. That's important because the divorce isn't done when they're divorced, unfortunately. There are things in the future that it can affect, so you have to think about that too, what's going to happen after the divorce. So I think in my experience, I've had a lot of experience with complex financial cases in my old firm, as well as when I started here. And it seems like the parentage and the parenting time stuff is really emotional, but the financial stuff can get pretty heated too. A lot of times the parties will argue more about that than the parenting issues, which is good and bad, I guess. So yeah, the financial part of the case is always pretty fun.
Genevieve, there's a question online. I think you'd probably be the best person for it then. It says, does my pension and 401k investment from my employer have to be split if I get a divorce?
Well, that depends.
It's always the answer.
So I guess the first thing you have to think about is how long you've been married and what part of that 401k and pension came in during the marriage. The marital portion of those accounts is what's going to be divided in a divorce. So anything that came into those accounts before the marriage, that person who owns the account, they will keep that. But the marital portion will be divided, not necessarily 50%. It could be an unequal division depending on the other assets that are involved in the case. But yes, it will ultimately have to be divided. I guess there's one more thing to think about. If the other party to the divorce has retirement and 401k pension, if the accounts are fairly equal, there may be no division. So that's another aspect to look at when you're dividing retirement accounts.
Great. Genevieve is fantastic with numbers. I know I rely on her quite a bit.
We have software that helps us a lot with that too.
Is now a good time to show the video?
Genevieve is also our boots on the ground. As you know, she's in the office. She's been in the office every day through this COVID-19 pandemic. So, and Genevieve works very closely with Kim on her cases, and she handles her own caseload, and she works very hard. And she does not only numbers, but custody issues as well as order protection issues. And we appreciate what you've brought to Anderson and Boback. You're a great member of the team. We got some TikToks, I hope.
Good. Here we go.
A sound effect.
I can't get enough of TikTok.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep. Nope.
Cute.
I like that one.
I love it.
Oh my God.
That's it.
That's
That's
so funny.
it. That's the only
That's it.
TikTok we
Brutal.
got.
We need one every week
My
from
big
you now,
face.
Jessica.
I thought there was another video. Or we have another video?
Well, we got a little challenge here. Since we have our whole team here, I think we have just a quick challenge about who's who.
Wow.
Who is that?
Oh my God, is that cute?
Oh, that's a cutie.
I don't know who that is.
I'm gonna guess
Alex?
Alex.
Alex?
Alex.
Ding, ding, ding. Cutest baby ever was Alex.
Yes.
Oh, that is super cute. Yeah.
Such a
Oh,
dramatic
who is
baby.
that?
Oh, that's
that's
Jess for
Jan.
Sure.
That's Jan.
That's Jan for sure.
She's even got the same eyes.
Oh, it
looking at you.
is.
My eyes have not changed. That's correct. Oh, that's Jess.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Same eyes.
Aw.
It's funny.
And
Oh, yeah.
Same
Oh,
ears. Oh my God.
Kim, same hairdo.
And you still get
Yeah.
out better all the time.
Same hairdo. Yeah.
oh my god.
Oh, is that
Oh,
cute?
That's
look
Jess,
at
that's gotta be
that.
Jess
Jess.
Marshall.
Jessica.
Yeah, that looks like
Yeah.
all the kids.
Looks like Liam.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
Last but not
That
least.
hasn't changed.
that's cute.
very
Jen, do
cute.
you still have that outfit?
I do, actually.
Yeah, she probably does. Yeah.
Can you wear it every day?
We all ended
Little
up
small.
on Anderson
Well-
with the Anderson and Boback.
Keith is online again this week.
We still don't have any men working here.
I think Keith wants to come work with us. What do you
Maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, by this time.
We should apply. Come on,
It's really bothering Keith that we have no men in the office. I don't know why.
He used
wants to
to.
come work
be
with us.
represented.
It's so much fun.
And I'm
Keith
not
should
going to
bring his
say.
friends. Keith
Yeah.
should bring his friends next week. Let's have a watch party, Keith. Start a watch party.
And I'm not going to weigh in on why, since last week they like cut off everything I said because it could be deemed offensive. So I'm
Kim,
just not
you're
even going to
never
say it this week.
offensive.
I know. Can you
Kim
imagine me
Anderson?
being called offensive? I mean, come
Kim
on.
Anderson, offensive? What?
So Keith, I'm sorry, we still haven't hired a man. I don't know what to tell you.
So Kim, that thing behind you, I see that you're in your craft room. Is that correct?
I was waiting for you guys to notice that I made
Love
this.
it.
You're in your craft room, right?
I'm in my craft room, and it took me, I'm telling you, how many weeks and weeks. It was ridiculous how long it took me and how expensive it was. But I didn't care, because once I started, I was like, I will finish this to the death. I will finish it.
Well, it's
That's
hard
pretty
to tell.
cool. Much
but
like
it's-
having to purchase cases.
Right.
It's a $4,500 piece.
If nothing else, I'm tenacious. And I said, I am going to do this. I'm going to finish it. I mean, the lady who I stole it from online, you know, she shows like, just do this and you just do that. And it's so easy. And it was just like complication after complication. And I never used a riveter before. So now
What's up?
I'm the
Yeah,
riveter.
it's hard to tell, but just so everybody knows, it holds bottles of paint.
Yeah.
So can we
Oh.
So these
Can
are all
we
my
show-
paints.
can we show the video of how? There you go. Let's watch.
Ooh.
You know we were showing this.
It's
I think
$4,500 if anyone wants one.
I think 10 hours was an underestimate of the time I spent on that thing. I'm just gonna
Plus
say.
supplies.
Well, Kim, you are certainly a talented member of this team. You're very crafty, very, very crafty. There's other
This
things.
is what I've been doing instead of billing hours this month, just so you know.
Well, I know that you do that in your spare time. You've all been working plenty hard, so we don't want to discount that. But yeah, you make very good use of your time, your spare time, and we appreciate you.
Oh, and we appreciate you, Jan. What about Jessica? Does anyone appreciate Jessica?
Let's hear about Jessica Marshall.
What did I do now?
How long have you been with the firm, and what opportunities have you had recently?
So I have been with the firm. It'll be, I think, 10 years this year.
What?
In October, right?
Party.
And everything has been an opportunity. I started my career with Anderson and Boback as a young, impressionable associate who was hired part-time for one case, just one case.
It was a
And I
doozy.
never left. And now I'm a partner here. And we've had a lot of opportunities too. I've had the opportunity to, really manage others and try to effectively learn how to do that over the last year and a half, in addition to my law practice. And it's been real. It's been real. I love it. I echo what everyone else said about COVID and the adjustments that we've made. I always thought at some point, how you like think in your head, at some point, I bet this will be obsolete. Like when I'm preparing evidence for trials, I'm like, at some point, I'm not going to waste all this paper. At some point, I'll be able to do this electronically. But I always envisioned I'd like hand an iPad up to a judge. And we've sort of skipped that.
Yeah, I have done that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think one time I tried to do it and the judge I was like, I have it here on my screen. And she's like, well, how are you going to get it into evidence? I'm like, I'm going to turn it around and show it to you.
Right.
But I did a whole trial on Zoom, which was really cool. And I actually preferred it a lot of ways. I preferred it to being there in person. It was super easy to have everything organized. I didn't have to spend time digging through paperwork and lugging paperwork. And it was just all at my fingertips and ready to go. I loved the chat feature. I don't have to read my client's handwriting when they're writing me notes next to me. It's like, I'm always like looking and it's distracting. Like I could just read in the chat what they had to say, which was awesome.
What'd you say, Alex?
We are like a family here.
Yes. We have family meetings every Wednesday. That's still working for us, even through Zoom, right, girls?
That's
Yep.
right.
I do miss Brownie Thursday though.
That's true.
Yeah,
Tell
I
us about
agree.
Brownie Thursday, Genevieve. What's Brownie Thursday?
Olivia she made brownies every Thursday for us in the office, and she'd put them in her little oven she has in her office. You could smell it
She
all
doesn't
morning.
have an oven in her office.
So really good.
We don't have an oven in the office.
No, not at all.
She orders them and they get delivered.
You mean a bread
Put them
machine?
in the microwave.
Bread
That was
machine.
the story we were
Microwave.
telling.
Yeah.
She goes
Like,
3
she doesn't have an
miles away
oven.
to a bakery and brings them in.
At the last place we rented, we have this bread baker in the office, and we would bake brownies every Wednesday, and they banned it. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between a toaster or a microwave or this bread baker? It's just, a machine that you plug in.
Right.
And so once they banned it, I would bake them in my office and lock the door, and I wouldn't let them in. You could hear them outside going, I smell it. I know she's in there somewhere. And I wouldn't open the door.
Our corner of the floor gets very popular on Thursdays with people
Yes.
walking by.
You can just
step
offer
off
them
the
a brownie.
elevator.
That'd be nice.
If
Yeah.
you walk into our office on a Thursday,
Wednesday.
guaranteed Brownie
Thursday.
Oh,
Brownie
it used to be
Thursday.
Wednesday. It used to be Wednesday. Now it's
Brownie
Thursday. sorry.
Thursday, yeah. If you walk into our office on a Thursday, guaranteed you're going to smell those brownies baking. I miss that too, Genevieve, and I'm looking forward to when we get together again and we're back in the office. I'm certainly looking forward to Brownie Thursday and our Wednesday lunches in person and just all the other opportunities that are going to come our way.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Hey, Jan, I think you have a question.
From
Garrett
Keith?
wants to know. No, it's different. It's not Keith. This is Garrett, and Jan's our military specialist in the office, even though I'm not supposed to use the word specialist. Okay, we'll have to cut that part out too.
Concentrator.
Garrett wants to know, I was in the Navy and unmarried. I have a TSP account still. Would it be split in the divorce?
if you had a TSP, which is a thrift savings plan, before you got married, then it's going to belong to you even after you got married. The only thing, like Genevieve said, that's going to be marital property is any portion that would be added after you get married. So for now, if you're not married, it wouldn't be divided if you do choose to get divorced. So your thrift savings plan is safe for now. But then again, you could always get a prenuptial agreement before you got married and take care of that issue ahead of time. So if you want to visit us, visit on Thursday. That's where you're
In the office.
Yes, yes.
It's hard to share brownies online.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Garrett is trying to keep his TSB account from me. It's so funny.
My favorite thing about what Jess Marshall was saying about when you pass an iPad up, I always was laugh because sometimes you'll see cases where a party, for instance, is just, well, if I had my phone, I would be able to show you what he says to me. You know, they're adamant about it. And then the judge unexpectedly to the party goes, well, fine, give me your phone.
Yeah.
And then just the face of the party, like, you don't know what's on that phone that they're about to hand to the judge. And I actually saw a judge once, the parties were both so mean to each other that she made each party read the messages they'd sent to the other out loud in front of her. And it was
That would be bad.
Wow.
A reenactment? Ooh, that would have been fun.
When you hear it back, it just sounds so much worse after.
It was so bad. And you could see them just be like, what did you call her? A corner.
That's
Did you
brilliant.
really say?
Brilliant. I love that.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Good.
Was that at 5:55?
What can I say? Cook
Was that
County
at
is brought to you by Zoom.
Zoom?
Oh, I said Cook County is now brought to you by Zoom, though.
Oh, right.
Right.
I appeared in court this morning, like physically in court this morning, and I had to wear a mask the whole time. I was there a couple of hours, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge.
Yeah.
What were they doing about crowds, Jan? Did they have really restricted numbers and stuff?
There's no elevators in Kankakee County. Everything's on 2 floors, and there's stairs. They had red X's on the floor and on the seats, so you could only sit or stand on a red X. And if you couldn't sit or stand on a red X, if they were all taken, you had to go out into the hallway and find a red X out there. So I don't know necessarily if they were counting people that came in, but they were certainly managing where they were, where their whereabouts were. So that's the story in Kankakee County. And LaSalle County's doing something similar too.
Yeah, I wonder what they're gonna have to do in Cook County when we go back, because there's just so many more people and not enough space. It's just, I don't
On
know.
a good day, there's not enough
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Cook County, the
absolutely.
elevators I think are the real issue.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I think at some point later this year, if we get back there, it's definitely going to be staggered times when the attorneys have to be there. So I just don't know. I think Zoom is here for quite some time.
Especially for statuses, it's just so not necessary. You know, by the time you get there and bring everything and wait to be called, it's so much more efficient to do it this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
But
agree.
you know
Most
what
of
I
it's
miss
been
is-
efficient, but Genevieve's had trouble for 2 times now trying to get someone divorced.
Yes, that was more the judge just not being available. So I don't know. Yeah, it does have a challenge sometimes when someone can't be there and they have to email you, or it does present some challenges, and you can't just go to another, you can't stay in the courtroom and wait, or you can't go to another judge. You only have that one judge to get something done you need done, and he can't do it or he's not there, then it just, you have to or do the whole thing again or get another date. So
I think we've all had that challenge in person as well. I know I've had lots of times where I go show up for a court date and sit for a while and something unexpected comes. But when it works, I think it's a really good system. I agree with that.
Also, I would rather have that problem over Zoom than in person, I think.
right.
At home, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
I know
better.
what Jan's gonna say, but say
Yeah,
it.
and if you want it, what?
The Zoom,
you were
you
talking.
said you were gonna say that you missed something, and I have a feeling I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Well, when you used to go into the courthouse, you could take care of several things, right? Like I just filed this, or I want to add this, or can we agree to that? And it seems like the Zoom takes away from that if the judge just sends back an order.
Right.
Or if you're just going through the process and sending in an agreed order, well, then I got this motion and they responded. And things get mixed up. And if one party doesn't want it all presented, you can't just stand in front of the judge and say, hey, what about this? When, you haven't gone through the 21-day process yet. So I think that's kind of, straggling things out a little bit more than necessary. So I think we're less efficient in terms of, getting things done together, which is unfortunate, but at least it's getting done. Judges in Cook County have done a great job, a fabulous job getting us into court.
I assume we won't be cutting that out of this week's video.
Well, and each judge is sending their own personal Zoom stuff. I'm accumulating the list, and it's getting longer and longer. So at least we have a way to get things before the judge. So it's working. It's working better and better every day. But I miss getting together and it's getting in the office and brownies.
Love brownies.
But anyway, well,
Machine Kim.
In the microwave.
For yourself. I miss the days when we come into the office and Kim will make us cream puffs.
Yeah.
Swans.
Cream puff swans.
Yeah, that happens occasionally.
Well, I need guinea pigs on things I try, so I need someone to eat it. I can't eat everything. Well,
the good thing is we're all keeping really busy. We've all had lots of opportunities. We're staying very busy. We're working really hard. We have a great client base and a great team. So everybody needs to just keep us in mind here at Anderson and Boback. Look at us. Look at the six of us. It's like the Brady Bunch.
Well, there's more of us. It's just these are all the lawyers.
Yeah, we didn't invite our support staff. They're back answering the phones and filing the motions and doing all that other necessary stuff while we present ourselves to the world on Live Chat Tuesday. What are we talking about next week?
Gosh, I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but I'm sure it's going to be fabulous.
Whatever it is, it will be great.
Yeah, so everybody needs to join us next Tuesday. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday to meet our team. Thank you, Jessica and Genevieve and Alex, for joining us and for all you do. And till we can see each other in person, stay well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Everybody take care.
Yes.
Bye.
All right, bye.